Hello, and thank you for joining us for another Changer Chat. I'm Grant Venable, Director of Change for Be the Change Volunteers. Today, we are having a conversation with one of our incoming board members, Chris Adejo. For Be the Change Volunteers, Chris brings the most unique and best perspective of the education systems and the developing communities that we seek to serve. Chris was born and raised in Nigeria, where he served as one of the country's top legal officials as the Resident State Counsel, which is equivalent of the U.S. Assistant Attorney General. In that position, he argued cases before the Nigerian Supreme Court. Today, Chris lives with his family in the middle of the United States of America and works for the University of Missouri-Columbia. We're going to hear the story of how this came to be, starting with Chris's early education. Chris, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Grant, thank you for having me.
Chris, I would love it if we could just capture your education story, because story is so important to our core mission, connecting people with not only the people we serve, but putting our stories out there for them. And what we'd like to start with is just your education story. So would you take us back to your early primary education? What was it like? What was a typical day like for a primary student in Nigerian schools?
Thank you very much for that question. Just thinking about it brings back memories and feelings and nostalgia. You just grew up and you see your colleagues everywhere trying to just be kids. We played. We were not speaking English from birth. We had our language. I come from one of those small languages called Igala language. So we learn to speak, and you wake up, you eat, and that's all you know. And then your mom has a baby, and then children everywhere. And then they send kids to school, and the kids will be crying. Some of them cannot even afford the privilege of sending their kids to school. Everywhere, not just functional, disorganized, if you will say so. That's how I grew up. My father had a measure of education. My mother never went to school at all. And then you just wake up, you have become 5. In fact, by the time I went to school, for you to be eligible to go to elementary or primary school, you have to put your hand over your head to touch your ears. If it's not able to do that, then you are not old enough to even be considered for education. I'm on the small side, and so I was very fortunate that it was in my time that was abrogated, and we didn't have to use the hand to measure who goes to school or not. Even having said that, the more the number of kids a man has, the more you are able to cultivate more land, so go to market. And so people basically back in the day had many children who were expected to grow up to help their kids economically, go into farm agriculture and all that. So we went to school. It's a mixed society. It's Christians, Muslims, and practitioners of African traditional worship. But the only schools that were available in my time were missionary schools. The Catholic Church had the goodness of their heart, open schools, and they never discriminated against anybody based on faith. And so it was open to Christians, to Muslims, to whoever wanted to go. But it was not very easy. Sometimes people sat under trees and under the elements to go to school. So it was quite kind of rough when we went to school. So a typical day is your mom getting you ready if you are privileged enough to be considered for school, and then they drag you to school. Sometimes you don't have pencils, you don't have anything to write with, and then you just recite things, and then you struggle the basics of A, B, C to Z, and 1, 2, 3 to maybe 30, and gradually, that's how it was for us typically. But it's just like you not even knowing what you are doing one day at a time. That's how it was.
So Chris, you said that you would get admitted into a school not only based on your age, but you had to be able to put your arm over your head and your hand had to touch your ear.
Yeah, that was what was available. It was only in my time that rule was phased out. That was correct.
That is a unique enrollment process.
Survival of the fittest.
Yeah, some of it leads me to wonder if some of that has to do with overcrowding in schools and just the struggle that we know administrators and the leaders of schools have to, provide a good education to as many students as they can. So they look for unique ways to bring the numbers down, unfortunate, unique ways. Were many of the schools crowded, or do you feel that they were not taken seriously enough to be crowded? What was the population of the schools like?
I think
diversity.
The answer was both yes and no. It was very crowded, and two, people had also to be talked into sending their kids to school at the same time. And so it is just like, on the one hand, the trainers, the missionaries knew the value of education. They wanted people to be in school, and the parents were not even willing to let their children go to school. That is one angle. The second angle to read is, even though they are willing to take as many kids into school, it was just very impracticable to cater for them. And so there had to be some form of elimination. So that's why I say it's both yes and no. It's crowded, and also there's not a lot of people who are willing to send their kids to school.
Right. And then you talked about being under-resourced as a student. A lot of students lack pencils and stationery and the things they need to develop their writing skills, their reading skills, all the things that create a well-rounded education. They just didn't have access to those things.
Correct.
So if you
even the school uniforms, school uniforms, yes, correct.
So if you were able to make it, and of course you did, if a student's able to make it through primary school, now talk to us about secondary education, or what we would call high school, junior high.
Yes. So different administrators have changed different school pattern over the years and over the decades. It used to be where people stopped at what they call standard 6 or 7, where the highest education, even the people who became teachers, only started teaching after the 7th grade. But unlike the United States, where you got to be a certain age, back in the day, you could find people who were very old enough and they were still in 7th grade. And so they ended up graduating and being retained as teachers and instructors. So we also missed that generation by a hair's breadth. And then it was, we could do 6 years in primary school. And then at the time, you went on to do secondary school for another 5 years. But it got changed also, where they split it, where after the 6th year in elementary school, you had to do 3 years in what we call junior secondary school, and then another 3 years in senior secondary school, making it a total of 6 years.
I see.
In secondary school, which was what I had.
So did I get this right? You could get a 7th grade education and then teach up to 7th grade?
At some point, that was applicable.
Wow. One of the things that Be the Change Volunteers does is, in rural schools, we try to build teacher housing, because we know that that's an issue that folks face. And when we build teacher housing, we're able to recruit teachers with a higher level of education and to develop new teachers in that community. So it's interesting that that's the case in Nigeria as well. So you're in high school, and I know that in many of the places we work, national exams are the biggest deal. Is that true in Nigeria as well?
That is what makes or breaks you in Nigeria and in most parts of West Africa. Okay,
so tell me about national exams. Is that like our SAT or our ACT, or is it completely different?
I think this is more, it's not only about Nigeria. This is the huge part of Anglophone West Africa.
Okay.
Which includes Nigeria, Ghana, the English-speaking part of West Africa, basically Nigeria and Ghana. So we call it the West African School Certificate, WASC.
WASC.
Then it became a Senior Secondary Certificate, SSC. So it's a central examination that is set nationally, if not internationally or regionally. So the same level of exams for kids who cannot afford to see even a laboratory in a whole school year will be competing for the children of the rich people in the big cities who have state-of-the-art facilities. So,
right. So some of the questions may be about laboratory issues or resources that these kids haven't ever had an opportunity to learn from hands-on, and they're still going to have the same questions.
the same question.
Right.
The same question. So basically, if you are from the rural area, you are already designed to fail already. And the failure rate will be very high. You are designed to fail. There's no way. You don't have the teachers, you don't have the equipment, you don't have the resources, and then you still have to write the examination. And it's national.
Tell me this, Chris, you said it makes or breaks you. I'm assuming if you don't get the certificate, you have no opportunities beyond.
At all. You don't have any level of education again.
Okay.
You don't.
If you do get the certificate, if you do pass, then what does that allow you to do?
So if you do pass, you are not dry yet. You're still in limbo. Then you have to write another national exam called the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board Examination.
Wow.
That places you into higher institution in Nigeria. So you have to write another level of exam after the qualifying exams in secondary school.
I have to tell you, Chris, I'm not a great test taker and I'm not a great exam taker. So this just sounds stressful to me, even as an adult. I can't imagine if you're a young student and you know that this is going to make or break your future. How many chances do you get?
Well, you have to pay a lot to even register for these exams.
I see.
So it's just like you have one bullet and you have to make your aim count.
I got it.
I know of most people who miss that one shot, and that's the end.
Wow.
But if you are able to get it the second try, then you would have spent much more than you spent the first time. And not everyone has that privilege.
Wow. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so that right there is part of the opportunity gap that a lot of students are facing. So it's the resources like science laboratories that you can get hands-on knowledge to even begin to pass some of the questions on these tests. But then there's the financial end of being able to take national exams. And I know some of our sponsored students, the BGCB Kids program, funds some of that testing. So I know that's a completely separate bill in a lot of the places that we work. Wow.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So we're moving through your education. Primary is done. Secondary is done. The walking on glass and the rings of fire to get through this national exam is all done. Chris, tell me, what does it take to go to university and then on to law school in Nigeria?
Thank you for that wonderful question. After the matriculation exam, the various colleges and universities that you have been able to meet the minimum requirements will still test you to find out if you are qualified enough to go through their school. Another level of tests.
An entrance test after the certification tests.
Correct.
All right. So you have to take an additional test to enter. What is going to college? What is going to university in Nigeria like? Because you work for a large university now. So how different is it? I'm guessing it's pretty different. It's
way different. Nothing similar except the quest for knowledge. Once you are able to make it to the university, it depends on the course of your study. Before I studied law, I studied engineering, which is a different thing. I want to just leave the engineering out of it and face the law. To study law is not like we do it here in the United States. In the United States, you have to do study for a degree in any of the disciplines, and then you go to law school. In Nigeria, you offer it as a first degree course where you go to university to study law for 5 years.
I see.
So after the 5th year, you graduate, whatever grade of your graduation, then you go to 1 year of Nigerian law school. That makes it the 6th year. Then you write a qualifying exams called the bar exams. Okay. Unlike in the United States, being a lawyer in Nigeria, Nigeria has one bar. The United States have different bars. There's a DC bar, there's a California bar, there's the New York bar, there's the Missouri bar. And so for you to practice in any of these jurisdictions, you have to be admitted to the bars of those states. In Nigeria, you are called to one bar and you have the license to practice in all courts within the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So at the end of your law school, you also go for another extra year of national service, making it the 7th year. In fact, I spent more than that in the university, not because I failed, but while you are in the university, sometimes the federal government will not be able to pay your teachers, your lecturers, your professors, and so they go on indefinite strike.
Oh my God.
Some of them can last as long as 6 months.
And so that really throws the school year out of whack for the students.
You know, that happens a lot of times. It still does. Up till as we speak, it still does.
Right. Wow.
So some people drop out, get married, go look for trade, and they don't even continue what they started.
So you got to have a lot of endurance to complete.
That is the watchword. Endurance, perseverance, long suffering.
Long suffering. It sounds,
determination.
Exams to me sound like long suffering alone without the quest for knowledge, as you put it so well. Chris, you finished law school and then you worked as the Resident State Counsel in Nigeria, arguing cases before the Supreme Court of Nigeria. And
correct.
That position is way above my pay grade. But could you tell us how you came into that role and how it affected your life?
Yeah, so I always dreamed of being a lawyer to advocate for the rights of the oppressed people because when I was growing up, it was under the military dictatorships. So the first year of my national service, I did work as a defense attorney. But at the same time, I knew that there was a lot of crime that was rampant in the country. And so I changed my orientation and I wanted to be a prosecutor, like a prosecuting attorney. That did not put me on the good side of the hoodlums and the bad boys. Oh, because an average day, successful day for me will be the day I go to court and I deny someone bail. And I argue why that person was a threat to the society. And I kept the rapist away from the glare of the public. And I kept the armed robbers in detention. And homicide, people who killed. And so in the US it's risky, in Nigeria it's way, way more risky. So I had to switch car, I had to sleep in unlikely places. I had to be on the run every day of my prosecuting life before I left Nigeria.
My gosh, so basically a career on the run.
Yes.
Wow.
Not just for you, but for your family. I had 2 girls and my wife. I was just afraid someday someone was going to kill them, rape them, maim them, destroy them, take them as a sex slave.
All because your career was focused on justice.
Correct. Correct. I know people I worked with who were beheaded. I know people like that. That has happened.
Yeah, I can tell you that that's not something that people in this country can even imagine to have to fear as part of their career. So I want to tell you, it takes an amazing amount of courage to stand up to those types of things and to do it the right way, the legal way. So as you did so well. So Chris, that kind of leads me to the next question. And you may have already pretty well answered it, but what caused you to decide to bring your family to the United States of America and start a career and life in the Midwest?
Well, the first thing I will say is that at the time in my life, a lot was going on, which was part of what I just alluded to, the uncertainty of the life and welfare for me and my family.
Right.
And 2, I wanted to just deepen my level of knowledge also. And I found out that I wanted to do dispute resolution. And looking around, the only university that was the first to do that in the whole of the United States was the University of Missouri. So I got in touch with them. And my brother also was living in Columbia at the time. That also helped me stabilize. And I came over, And also at that point in my life, I've had the misfortune of losing 3 brothers of the same parents too, within the span of like 5 to 6 years.
Wow.
And so I took my destiny in my hands, and I came here first. And after 4 months, my wife and 2 girls joined me, and we were blessed to have a son while I was in grad school here in the United States. You know, other than that, I was fully accomplished. I was consulting for the Economic Community of West African States Commission, called ECOWAS. I was traveling to other African countries. I was earning in US dollars, which way much more than I earn right now. But of what use will be your earning if you are not safe, you are not sure of the next day? These were the things that I put into consideration. And I'm blessed to be in this incredible country at the same time.
And so, Chris, your law degrees and then your LLM in dispute resolution from the University of Missouri Law School, those weren't enough. You're probably one of the most well-educated people I know, because you also decided to do a Master of Public Administration.
Yes.
What drove you to do that?
I believe that knowledge is power. I believe education opens doors that ordinarily you will not be able to access. I'm not the most qualified person around. I know people who will consider me illiterate. I know people with so many much more degrees, doctoral degrees in multiples of them. But we love knowledge. We love to impart society. We love to be the change. And that's why when I had the opportunity of being the change, I just knew that there are people who will not listen to me until they know that I have something that I have studied and achieved. And so it's the motivation. It gives me the platform to be able to access certain people and to being an instrument of change. So that's one of them. And I'm not done. I'm thinking of a doctoral in law and democracy. In fact, I had applied in the state of Indiana. That's the University of Indiana. And I want to see if I can reapply again. I also want a doctoral in organizational psychology. All this is tailored towards being a complete agent of change, talking with world leaders, especially in my home Africa, talking with people, teaching the people who will become teachers, and being an instrument of change. I look forward to a time where I can go to other countries in the midst and build and be a source of inspiration. I always like to listen to Jimmy Cook, who's our founder in Be the Change, who believes in the value and the virtue of education. He always quotes Nelson Mandela: education will transform lives. That's why I'm not tired of going to school.
Man, that's, I could just listen to you tell me this all day, and it just motivates me and our mission so greatly. Chris, I want to go back into your story. When you came to the U.S., you came from a really important position in Nigeria, but what was your first job in the U.S. when you got here?
I had one of the best jobs. I want to keep you in suspense, but let me let it out. I was a customer service attendant. The one thing I love with the United States, they give this good name to the small things that we do.
Yeah.
So I was wiping the tables, I was mopping the floors, I was cleaning the bathrooms, I was talking with the students. Believe you me, that is the most fun part of my life coming to the United States. I knew people. The way I speak, obviously, you will know that I didn't grow up here. It gave me the opportunity to relate with those kids and just appreciate where I was coming from. And I just believe what Hillary Clinton will say, that talents abound everywhere, but you can't say the same thing for opportunity. And I just bless them for having that opportunity to effortlessly go to school. And I also learned from them, smart kids. And then they didn't have to worry about it. Some of us worried. And I said, well, these are going to be my kids in the future. So working in the dining, that is the dining facility in the university, gave me an opportunity. My social skill went to a different level. I was able to engage and connect. I knew the value and the culture of the people. I struggled with how to order my menu. They helped me. I prepared meals. And so That was my best job. It was my first job. I'm grateful to God for that.
Chris, you've got to have one of the best attitudes about every situation, probably of anybody I know. And I love that you didn't come here and see a job mopping the floors, wiping the tables, and serving others in that way as a job. You saw it as an opportunity. And, you know, for Be the Change volunteers, we build schools because education creates jobs, and a job is the only way out of poverty. And we truly believe that creating those opportunities will rise people out of poverty. So I'm just so grateful for your perspective on that to everyone who's listening right now, because I know we probably have some people who are listening and thinking, man, my job is terrible. And then you hear that, you know, don't see your job as terrible, see it as opportunity, see it as something that can grow. You used it to grow your ability to communicate with others because you came from another land. And that's just so impressive to me.
Thank you.
So, Chris, you definitely have advanced from that position. You've done several different jobs for the university. And, you know, now you actually work near one of our co-founders, Jimmy Cook, who you mentioned before.
Yes.
Just talk about opportunities. How are opportunities for advancement in education and careers different in the USA than in Nigeria? And of course, everyone knows they're different, but could we hear it from you?
Yeah, thank you for that brilliant question. Like I told you, I started from the dining, and then I went on to become a graduate research and teaching assistant, where I taught kids from freshman year to senior year. And then I became a housekeeper again. And then I also did construction work. And then I went back to being trained to be an OR tech, where I became an anesthesia technician. And then I became a coordinator of the Limb Preservation Center. And at every stage, I learned one skill, from my speed in typing to answering emails to how to couch your words and sentences in a work environment. And I've been blessed by different mentors who have helped me every step of the way. But right now, I own a pilot, I would say like something pilot called the Patient IQ. And I work directly with Jimmy Cook, where we're able to collect data and help patients and then complete their tasks, make their wait time very short, enhance their visit, make the providers give the best, have more turnover, especially in the era of COVID. And I'm developing it. With the people that I have worked with, my skills keep getting better every day, every time. I have an office, I have the space, I'm respected for what I do. I met the who is who, from the CEO of the hospital to the president of the university. I've met with them, spoken with them, interacted with them, taking pictures with them and of them too, because I do photography. And that's awesome. There's so much opportunity I have, but comparing it back home, like you asked, the level of nepotism is very high. You got to know someone. You got to be someone's child. You got to be someone's wife, someone's daughter. So it's not the same. But for you to really break through, then you have to wait a long time. But I'm blessed that I've enjoyed the goodwill of people here. I love what I do. It's giving me opportunity, and I want to be an instrument of change.
Oh my gosh, I love it. An instrument of change. So Chris, these last questions are a bit about family and students and our mission. What advice do you give your own children about education? And I know you are a family man first. You know, when I ask what you do, you say, well, I'm a husband and a father. You don't tell people what your career is. You tell them I'm a husband and a father. And I know you could talk about your wonderful, beautiful family for 6 of these sessions straight. But tell me, what advice do you give your own children about education? And if you could send a message to students at our BTCB partner schools around the globe right now, what would you say to them?
I tell my kids, I say, education opens the door. Doors to opportunity, doors to prosperity, doors to humanity. You go to school not just for yourself, but for others. And I tell them that my father gave me a little measure of education. I took it to this level. You have to pass this to the next generation. You got to beat my record. I'm not putting them under tension, or I'm not setting them up for competition, but I'm inspiring them. I'm in their life. We go through the homeworks together. I don't really have a second job, not because I don't need extra income, but I believe that I have to succeed in the family front. So my kids are my friend. And I also use my lifestyle, my growing up as an example to them, where they could have been and where they are now. And so I tell them, the people are depending on you. Don't let them down. Don't let this opportunity you have waste. Be good, be fruitful, be successful. Education, knowledge is power. And for all the kids who are in Africa and all the supporters and people who sponsor all the things, the Be the Change volunteer group, all the things you do all across third world countries and other countries like India, like Peru, like Rwanda, like Tanzania, I tell you that the kids one day will say, thank you for what you have done. And I'm a man of faith. A time will come where they will tell you, when I was uneducated, you educated me. When I did not have a playground, you gave me a place to live. And then they will ask, when did I do that? And God will remind you, when you donated to Be the Change. When you changed that little boy's life in that corner of India, in Rwanda, in Peru, in Tanzania, you did that unto me.
Chris, that is absolutely fantastic and so core to what I personally believe as well. So thank you so much for putting it into that view for our listeners. I'm so grateful for your time, Chris. Last question, because I know you care deeply for your home in Nigeria, the people of Nigeria. Is there anything you want to send to the people of Nigeria right now? And we'll broadcast it out there, of course, for you.
Fellow Nigerians, it is colorful. It is bright. You will get there. Your future is bright. You will get there. And for all you leaders in Nigeria, look at the plight of the people that you have been elected to serve. Those children are yours. There is hope. Make opportunities available. Let the kids grow. Let the kids develop. Kids prosper. Let the kids flourish. And I'm telling that kid who's not sure of where the next school fees will come from. I'm talking to that kid who has nowhere to burn energy, no playground. I'm talking to that kid who is not sure of the next meal. I'm talking to that kid who does not have any clothes to cover his back. There is hope. I feel you. I have been through those situations. If I can be better, you can be much more better. Just hold on and don't give up. Thank you.
Chris, thank you so very much for sharing your story with us, for giving us your time, and of course, for giving us your energy and talents on our board of directors. I'm greatly looking forward to working with you over your next term. So just thank you so much for everything today.
Thank you very much, Grant. Thank you, and I express my profound appreciation to the entire team and board of directors of Be the Change and all our numerous sponsors and supporters. I appreciate all you do. I'm so glad I'm part of this team.
And we're glad to have you. Thank you, Chris. We hope you enjoyed this Change Your Chat, and we hope you will visit us online at bethechangevolunteers.org or btcv.us. If you like the Change Your Chat sessions and want to hear more, let us know with your financial support of our mission so that more students can have the opportunity for education. Thank you, and be the change.